The following program paid for by Lifespan Wealth Management. Providing financial advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, and Jonathan Eisner. And now from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia, and thanks for tuning in to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. So if you're looking for an investment advisor, call our office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation.
Lifespan Wealth Management has offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience and has been serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. You can learn more about our services by visiting our website at retirerelax.com. And while you're on our site, go to the special reports section where you'll find several reports that are available to you for free. You can also sign up to receive our digital feeds, which are short videos providing great information relevant to retirement, investing, and matters that affect your money.
We also offer seminars to the community at no cost. So if you're in need of a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give us a call, and together we can decide what topics you would like us to present to your group. Again, our contact number is 478-922-8100. Good morning, everybody. It's great to be back with y'all.
It is.
And you know, Sherry, I just realized this morning, now that Corey is here with us this morning, Corey Albrecht we introduced him a couple of weeks ago as one of our newest advisors. He's on the radio show with us today. Jonathan is out taking his Series 24 test, which we just got notified that he passed.
Yay.
But we need to redo the intro to have Corey's name added
That's
to
right.
it. So anyway, welcome, Corey.
Well, thank you.
All right, let's jump right into the news and some interesting topics. First-time unemployment claims surged to the highest level since 2001. But most of the increase is tied to the Texas flooding and people being forced out of their jobs.
So just a side note, I'm seeing headlines everywhere of this subject, and it's misleading. They're leaving out the last part that you just said about the Texas flooding. They're making it sound like we have some crisis going on of unemployment, and the numbers are very skewed. So here's the bottom line. Be careful what you watch and what you believe, because what you believe determines how you act and what you do with your money. And so you need to make sure you get to the truth. So just be careful.
That's right.
Anyway.
Corey?
Up at the White House, President Trump is floating the idea of companies no longer providing earnings reports on a quarterly basis and switching instead to semi-annual. The president argues that not only would this save money, but it would allow for managers to focus on properly running their companies. All of this would be subject to SEC approval, but the idea has been floated around in 2018 during the president's first term. The shift is based off the idea that quarterly earnings guidance often leads to unhealthy focus on short-term profits at the expense of long-term strategy, growth, and sustainability.
I kind of like the idea of going to semi-annual.
I'm agreeing with this because the volatility, just even the companies report their stock returns, report their earnings, all of this, everybody reacts. The market is so reactive anymore.
It is.
It's just over the
That's
top.
why I would like to see it go to semi-annual. Let the companies focus on running the company. Right now, they're too narrowly focused on the short-term results. So I think extending that time frame out a little bit is not going to hurt them. But that being said, I did have another report that I came across in doing the research for this show, and so we're going to use this as a primer for next week. So I've added it to next week's show. So we're going to have more detail on the history and some statistics, which is just, you'll love to hear that, I'm sure.
We're just waiting in suspense.
Yeah, I know, just on the edge of your seat. So just hang on.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Anyway, Powell meeting and the rate cut. As you probably already have heard, the Fed cut the Fed rate by 25 basis points, but most Americans won't feel a big difference, economists say. The Fed wants to keep inflation in check while addressing growing signs of weakness in the labor market. For consumers struggling with rising unemployment as well as debt levels, a rate cut may seem like a much-needed bailout, but by and large, any immediate drop in interest rates will have little impact on overall consumer well-being, which has been stressed by years of rising prices. Meanwhile, the other concern for consumers is if the Fed cuts interest rates, there is a potential risk that prices could rise even more. Half the respondents in a recent morning consult poll said interest rates are too high, but can they expect much relief if the Fed lowers rates? Here's what experts say a rate cut would mean for house hunters, job seekers, credit card users, car shoppers, and cash savers.
Home buyers are already seeing a drop in mortgage rates. Many house hunters may find that the Fed cuts may not move the needle on mortgage rates at all. That's because mortgage rates typically rise and fall well ahead of the Fed's announcements. Many house hunters are under the impression that the Fed controls mortgage rates, but that's not the case. The Fed does not directly set mortgage rates at all. Instead, those typically move in tandem with the 10-year or with the yield on the 10-year Treasury note. When investors expect the Fed to cut interest rates based on how the U.S. economy is faring, they may increase the buying of the 10-year note, which lowers its yield. A bond price and a yield move in opposite directions. That in turn pushes down the 30-year mortgage rates. Investors are also expecting the Fed to buy up more mortgage-backed securities in the months ahead, which is also pushing down the yield on the 10-year Treasury note and, by extension, the mortgage rates. So, by the time the Fed actually cuts its benchmark rate, savvy home buyers would have already gone to their mortgage lender, locked in a relatively low mortgage rate, and set off on house hunting. Financial institutions are drumming up discount rates or discounts to entice home buyers. For instance, Chase is offering a limited term refinancing discount where if the buyer locks in a rate before the 21st of September and meets the qualifying criteria, they can get a lower mortgage rate. So call your bank today.
The weakening labor market has become the Fed's prime focus as rate cuts come into view. It's essentially becoming a no hire, no fire market, which may work fine for the people holding on to their current jobs, but it's rough for the unemployed job hunters. That search isn't likely to get much easier after any rate cuts, according to experts. A Fed cut, or even multiple cuts, would result in more jobs than would be seen under no rate decreases. But factors including the impact of the Trump administration's tariffs and tighter immigration rules make it tough to say how many jobs will come from the rate cuts. More hiring could start happening by the end of the year or as early as next year as lower rates sink into employers' minds, according to Noah Yosef, chief economist at the American Staffing Association, the professional association of firms that place temporary and contract workers typically has an idea of where employer staffing needs are going.
Very good. For the average person with a revolving credit card balance, any move by the Fed will have only a minor impact on their debt payments. On the average credit card balance of $6,473, which makes me want to scream, a person who had been making minimum payments, which they assume is 1% of the balance, plus interest at 20.12% interest,
Ouch.
would be in debt for 219 months and end up paying $9,426 in interest. Even if the Fed cuts by half a point at an APR of 19.62, that person would still be in debt for 218 months and have a total interest of about the same amount. So please pay off your credit cards now.
Don't carry a balance.
It's a total ripoff. So what about cars? After a Fed rate cut, rates for vehicle loans won't immediately decrease as they are tied to long-term Treasury yields that remain elevated, according to a September report by Cox Automotive. What's having a bigger impact on financing deals is the overall slowing in car sales generally, which is leading dealers to offer more attractive deals, particularly to buyers with good credit. According to Cox, nearly 7% of consumers financing new cars at dealerships in July locked in a 0% APR. By late July, the average loan rate for a new car was 9.06%, down 61 basis points year over year. And for buyers with a credit score over 760, the rate was down to 5.4%, the lowest since 2022. Rather than waiting for a Fed decision to impact loan rates, consumers can secure even lower auto loan rates by improving their credit by one level or approximately 100 points. So pay down your debt, pay everything on time, get your credit straight so that you qualify for the best possible interest rate.
You know, it's amazing. Everyone's concerned about how much they're paying in credit card payments and interest rates, but, you know, and they're applauding the Fed reducing it by 1/4 point, but yet they're still paying 20% by carrying a balance.
So
it just is it doesn't make
it
sense.
makes my head want to explode because I see people that come to me that are planning to retire and they have $5,000 to $20,000 in credit card debt and they're making minimum payments every month, yet they're going to retire. I'm like, you have to pay this off. You've got to start paying it monthly. Only charge what you have to. Pay it off every month. Don't be paying 20% interest on anything. You're just throwing money out the window.
That's right.
That you could be using toward your expenses. So if you're planning on getting closer to retirement, you're thinking about retirement, credit card debt, number one thing that's got to go.
Yep.
Worst thing ever.
In recent years, the silver lining of higher interest rates has been better return on cash investments, including savings accounts, bank certificates of deposit, and money market mutual funds. Savers love the idea of getting yields of 4% and 5% on low-risk liquid investments. The anticipated Fed rate cuts will reduce the reward for putting money in these products. Some banks are already trimming the rates ahead of waiting for the Fed, which has also happened in the lead up to the central bank's rate cut last year.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about how to keep this hot stock market from melting your retirement dreams. The stock market seems to be unstoppable at this current time. The S&P 500 is nearly up 12% so far this year. Over the past decade, the S&P 500 has returned an average of 15% annually, far in excess of its long-term annualized return of 10.3. The obvious worry is that stocks have become extraordinarily expensive. The more subtle concern is that the booming stock market breeds complacency. Huge returns make comfy retirements for everyone seem within reach without effort or sacrifice, and that's a dangerous delusion. With indexes at record highs, it is the perfect time to remind yourself that saving for your retirement isn't the stock market's job, it's yours. Whether you have decades of working ahead of you, you're nearing retirement, or you're already retired, you're probably going to need more money to sustain you in your post-work years than you think. That will be especially true if as history suggests, high current stock prices lead to lower future returns. What if performance dwindles? Retirement savers who took high returns for granted and didn't save enough may face several shortfalls. But returns are only one side of the coin. The other is spending.
So it's widely believed that people spend less in retirement than they were working. One popular rule of thumb is that if you will have to cover only 70% to 80% of your pre-retirement spending. That's nonsense, according to researchers at Edwin McQuarrie and William Bernstein, who wrote a book with the working title, How Much Must You Save to Retire? Several studies have shown that on average, people spend around 93 to 97% as much in retirement as they did when they were working. Those who spend less do so not because they can, but because they must, because they didn't save enough. I'm also seeing a lot of people take debt into retirement, a mortgage, car payments, credit card debt. I heavily encourage these folks to have a plan to pay off this debt before they retire, particularly credit card debt, which I already mentioned earlier, which makes me nuts.
Yep. The wealthier, on the other hand, may even spend more in retirement than they did while they were working. Dan Foote, who turns 65 next month, can vouch for the steady state of spending. Foote is a former commercial banker who retired 10 years ago, and while he was working, he imagined that his household spending would decline when he retired, especially after moving from the pricey suburban New York to a lower-cost Columbus, Ohio area. That's not how it worked out, though. He says he doesn't commute anymore or buy suits, but he has more time on his hands to spend money, and I think that we spend the same during now as they were doing during their working years. Fortunately, Foote adds, because the stock market has boomed in the past decade, his net worth today is higher than it was 7 or 8 years ago.
Now, he's very fortunate.
Yep.
But what if the stock market doesn't boom? What if it busts? In the recent research analyzing returns from the 1793, McQuarrie looked at all 30-year periods lagged monthly through the end of 2023 and analyzed the returns of over 2,400 companies over that 30-year span. In 160 of those 2,400 three-decade periods, analyzing stock returns averaged less than 3% after inflation. In 302 of the 30-year periods, an eighth of the total sample, stocks gained an average of less than 4% annually after inflation. That might sound pathetically low to you. It isn't. The average since 1793 is 6.1%. If you expect to work for 30 years and be retired for 30 years, says Bernstein, you'd better save a truckload of money and you better be lucky.
Wow.
And it just goes to show that you need to be constantly watching, or have someone to be constantly watching your portfolios for you.
Yeah. I've had met with people who have one stock in their entire portfolio, and that one stock is what they're banking on to make them get through retirement, and it scares me to death. I mean, sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't, and I can't talk to them about having a different strategy than that because they believe in this one company.
My brother had that same philosophy, and and everything he owned was,
my gosh,
was in WorldCom.
That was a disaster.
Gone overnight.
So, what investors must never forget is that market returns have three basic phases: good to great, middling, and miserable. To counteract the consequences of miserable long-term returns, you have only three choices: save more, work longer, or take more risk. Saving more is by far the safest option.
Before we go on, the take more risk always resonates with me because we see that. We see that here when people call us up and go, hey, I want to invest in this, and we have to say, well, let us do some research on it, and we'll get back with you and we'll talk about it. But what you see is that the people who haven't made good investment decisions
or haven't saved enough
throughout their life, they were never aggressive investors to start with. They suddenly start wanting to make those aggressive moves in the stock market, thinking
to make up for lost time.
That it's going to make up for lost time, and it just doesn't work out that way.
Might sometimes.
Well, it could, but
right, no guarantee.
Anyway, moving on.
Now to an article from Indeed.com. It includes a chart which shows employment growth that has been concentrated in just a few sectors from July 23 to July 25. During this time frame, a few sectors have experienced employment growth exceeding the overall employment share. For example, while construction workers represent 5% of all workers nationwide, growth in the construction sector has increased by 8% as a percentage of total jobs since 2023 July. Still, no other sector compares to the growth observed in the private education and health services sector. Of the 3.5 million jobs added between July 23 and July 25, a comfortable majority, 1.9 million, were in the private education and health services sector. And almost all of those jobs, about 1.8 million, were just added within the healthcare and social assistance subsector.
Wow.
As of July 25, this subsector accounted for just 14.7% of all jobs in the United States. But over the past 2 years, it has accounted for a whopping 51.9% of all job growth. This is a notable increase from the preceding 2-year period, during which the healthcare and social assistance accounted for only 15% of employment growth.
That's crazy.
Much more in line with how much they share in the overall employment. Indeed's data mirrors the publicly available payroll employment data. Jobs postings for healthcare positions, which is a good marker for employer demand, which remains elevated at 32.5% above pre-pandemic levels. Jobs posting are especially elevated for physicians and surgeons and therapy positions, which demand for both currently more than 80% higher as it was in August this year. And even where demand is fading somewhat in the healthcare industry, it remains red hot relative to pre-pandemic.
So I got to make a comment here. So I went to my doctor back in July because I wasn't feeling good and all of this. And he's referred me to a couple of specialists. And then I have annual physicals that I have to do every year. As a woman, you go to certain doctors every single year, so they check all this stuff and make sure you're fine. Well, everybody's postponing my appointments. And in fact, I had a client this week. She had a doctor appointment this month that she really, really needed. They've dumped her to December. That's what I'm seeing and hearing from all of my clients, and that's what I'm experiencing is like they don't have enough people to see you, let alone even answer the phone.
Yeah.
It is really something, and that's just local is what I'm seeing. Is
put that on a national level, and
I can't even imagine the stress.
Yep.
And they can't see people fast enough, and I don't think the systems are very efficient because every person that I am supposed to go see, what was that?
My microphone stand just popped.
Oh, everybody that I'm supposed to see supposedly has a different system. And then once you create a username and a password and log in, how many people are going to want to do that for 20 different people that they're seeing?
Right.
The whole thing is just a mess.
It's disjointed.
It is very disjointed, and somebody needs to do something about it because basically people are just they're missing.
They're frustrated.
So I'll give you an example. So I had a client in yesterday who's diagnosed with cancer a couple of years ago, and he told me when he went in for a test for something else, the guy that did the exam said, something's wrong with your lung. You need to go ask your doctor. Next time you go for your annual review, you need to ask your doctor about what's going on with your lung, because I'm kind of seeing this in the very edge of the x-ray that I took that something might not be right. He didn't tell him, you should go now. You should go now because maybe something's wrong. He just kind of like threw it out there like, well, maybe you should, next time you see him, blah. Well, guess what? He had lung cancer. And because he didn't go immediately, because the guy didn't look further into it, he's going to die from this.
Yeah.
They can't fix it. And so I find our whole system to be so broken. I'm very frustrated with the entire thing, to have clients running all over the place, seeing all these people that can't do anything for them. I think, I don't know who can fix this.
Well, the other thing, too, is that you and I have both encountered is that the doctor's offices don't employ enough admin staff to handle all the paperwork that's coming in. So
right.
They're just buried, and so it's just so both sides of that is broken.
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
It's a big mess that needs to get fixed.
But if you're looking for a different job, something to consider. If you're trying to figure out what career to choose, I would encourage the young people to talk to human resources in the local hospital and ask them what employees that are in short demand. And I'm sure they're looking down the road at the number of the future retirees and the shortage of these certain positions. So it would never hurt to pick up the phone and call and see what they have to say.
So I went online, and there are numerous sites to learn about training and employment opportunities, but I think a visit to Central Georgia Tech may be more helpful. You can call and make an appointment with a counselor. You can also go to their website and look at the free programs they offer and the report of how long it takes someone to get a job after graduating from these programs. It's extremely helpful. We have an aging population, so I only see this problem getting worse. All right. So next up, I see a big problem coming down the pipeline regarding this next article. When is it too late to have an aging parent sign legal documents? And I'm dealing with this on a weekly basis. This issue of creating new legal estate planning documents, including a will, power of attorney, and advance directive, or updating them comes up when adult children start to notice problems with aging loved ones. So Randy was in the military, and we were required to have these documents on file in the event that something bad happened while we were stationed overseas, and I had to take the kids back to the States due to a military conflict. Having these documents and keeping them updated became a habit. Before getting into this business, I assumed everybody saw them as important, and I was very wrong. Memory loss usually shows up first, and many family members dismiss it as just getting old. But memory loss is not a normal part of aging. It is an early warning sign of cognitive impairment. In many cases, this mild cognitive impairment increases and dementia follows. What should families know about this process? Does it affect the ability to sign legal paperwork? Is there a capacity to sign a legal document? The remainder of this article is from Forbes.com, written by an attorney. In our legal system, we respect the right of self-determination of all individuals. However, this does have limits. When we consider what the law calls testamentary capacity, meaning the ability to make a will or trust, the standard is low. If a person generally has a clear idea of what one owns and whom they want it to give it to after they pass, we likely find them to have this capacity. They don't have to be able to balance the checkbook or keep track of their bills to have testamentary capacity.
When it comes to financial capacity, there is a distinction between the testamentary capacity and the capacity to handle financials. Financial capacity is a much more complex ability. One not only has to know about one's financial status, but the person has to understand the actual value of what is owned, how things are calculated, and what a bank error looks like. Can the person calculate the tip on a restaurant bill? Can they recall when taxes are due and see that they have them paid? The author states that at agingparents.com, they consult with families and see a reoccurring issue when a family elder, usually an aging parent, fails to pay their income and property taxes.
That's a big problem.
Forgetting these reoccurring obligations is a definite sign of a diminishing or lost financial capacity. Their memory loss about money must never be ignored nor dismissed as just getting old. When we at Lifespan Financial are approached about an aging parent by family seeking advice, we do make it clear that taking protective action is essential when the elder can't keep track of bills and payments due.
All right, we're already at the halftime, so I'm going to
Wow.
go ahead and take the halftime show.
You've been listening to Your Money, brought to you by Lifespan Wealth Management, proudly serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. Our mission? Helping folks just like you plan for a secure and stress-free retirement. Need a trusted financial advisor? Call us today at 478-922-8100 and schedule your complimentary consultation at our Macon or Warner Robins office. Want to learn more? Visit us anytime at retirerelax.com. Because when you plan smart, you can retire and relax. And here's something extra. We offer free educational seminars for the community. If your group needs a guest speaker, give us a call and let's make it happen. That's 478-922-8100. Now, let's get back to the show.
All right. So what action must a family take? One of the first questions we ask when an adult child seeks advice from us and says mom or dad is paying the bills twice or forgetting to pay the insurance premium or taxes or whatever else, is whether anyone has been appointed as an agent or a parent's durable power of attorney, and do they have the document to support that? It is always surprising when we hear that no one has been appointed. This is a necessity all of us need to have. Sometimes the family reports that they think that the document exists, but no one can find it. The aging parent doesn't remember, or the lawyer who prepared it, and the will and the power of attorney is gone, so no one knows. The question then becomes: is mom or dad capable of creating a new document and understanding what they are signing?
So here are the basics about a durable power of attorney document. For anyone with an aging family member who is seeking to protect the elder and ensure that finances are taken care of, know that you need legal authority to act on their behalf. The most common way to do that is with a signed and notarized basic durable power of attorney form, which is available free on Emory Law's website. It does have to be witnessed and notarized, which your financial advisor can help you with. You don't have to have a lawyer draw one up, though an estate planning lawyer can tailor the language in the form to your loved one's best financial circumstances and needs and make the legal authority clearer and more comprehensive. That is ideal, but a basic form is better than no form. And while you're at it, get the will and advance directive done. If they own property, it will need to pass by the will, and the advance directive allows them to state what level of care they want if they are dying. A fillable advance directive is available at caringinfo.org or on the Emory Law website. I try to get everybody to do this stuff.
And Sherry, you created the Life Book 20 years ago, I believe it was,
Right.
and it is a great document that is on our website at retirerelax.com, and it's free. You don't have to sign up to do anything to get this thing. Just go download it, punch print it out, punch 3 holes in it, put it in a notebook. The Life Book really does provide you a great format for you to store all the advanced directives, the wills, the directions,
Life insurance.
instructions to your families. Really, write some things down that you want to be known. So, if you want a copy of that, please go to our website and get this. It's absolutely free.
retirerelax.com.
Yep. All right.
I'll tell you one last thing. So people don't talk about dying. And I know this was not on the topic that we're going through here, but you need to let people know what you want them to do. Because I recently had a case of a woman who came in to see me, and nobody talked about the fact that parents were going to die or they were going to be buried or what. And she ended up paying for the entire funeral, everything, the whole casket. She paid for all of it because everybody else was broke. And I said, did you guys ever talk about what the parents wanted. She goes, no, we didn't want to bring it up. They didn't know if they wanted to be cremated or buried or what, yet she spent all of her money making happen what she believed they would want, when it may not even have been what they wanted in the first place.
And the life book, once you create it, don't make it a hidden document.
Everybody needs to
share
know.
it with your family and say, these are my wishes. If you don't want to sit there and talk about it, write it down and make them read it. You know.
There you go.
All right. Next up, let's talk about some critical insights on the Social Security program and survivors' benefits. When your spouse passes away, this can be a very trying and confusing time. So let's make dealing with the Social Security the least of your worries. When a spouse passes, Social Security will be notified by the funeral home. But you still need to call them and make an appointment with the Social Security office to see if you are eligible for survivor benefits. You cannot file for this benefit online. And the next is there's a $255 lump sum death benefit available to the current spouse living with the deceased spouse at the time. And you have 2 years from the date of the death to apply for this benefit. All right. You must be alive. And next thing is you must be alive the entire month to receive a check from the Social Security Administration. Social Security checks are paid a month behind. So, for example, the check that you receive in March is for the month of February. If you pass away in March, you are not entitled to receive a payment for the month of March. If there is a Social Security bank deposit for April for the deceased for the month of March, just leave that amount in the account, and the Social Security Administration will withdraw that amount from this account. This deposit must be paid back, and I will tell you, make sure there's money in your account because they're going to take the money regardless, and you don't want them to overdraw your account.
That's a really good point. The funeral home usually explains this to my clients. I mean, they explain all of this so people don't do the wrong thing.
To be eligible to collect a survivor benefit, you must be a current spouse at least age 60 or age 50 if disabled, and married for a minimum of 9 months. Above is the same for the ex-spouse, but must have been married for at least 10 years or more. If married to more than one ex-spouse for the required 10 years, you can claim the survivor benefits for the higher earning spouse.
To be clear on this, if you were married to two people for at least 10 years each, I mean, not at the same time. I hope you read that
obviously.
right. Right? So you can choose the Social Security benefit on the higher earning ex-spouse, and neither of them will be notified. And I've only had a few cases of this, but it was interesting to me that they got to go back and look and choose without those people knowing anything about what they were doing, which is a huge benefit.
And when it comes to survivor benefits, they're separate from spousal benefits. Spousal benefits are capped at 50% of your spouse's full retirement age benefit. Survivor benefits are equal to 100% of what your spouse was receiving at the time of death, including delayed retirement credits. If your deceased spouse has not filed for Social Security benefits and passes away before full retirement age, the surviving spouse is entitled to the deceased spouse full retirement age benefit. If the deceased spouse has not filed for the benefits and passes away after full retirement age, the surviving spouse is eligible for what the deceased spouse would have received at the date of death. Remember, the surviving spouse benefits is reduced if filed for before the full retirement age. A child under 16 or a child disabled before the age of 22 may also be eligible to receive 75% of what the parent was receiving at the time of death with no reduction.
And if you're receiving a spousal benefit based on the deceased records, the spousal benefit will auto-convert to a survivor benefit. In simple terms, if both are receiving a Social Security benefit payment when one spouse passes away, the survivor will receive the higher of the two benefit amounts. The lower benefit goes away. So if you apply for survivor benefits before your full retirement age, the benefit will be reduced. For example, if your deceased spouse was receiving the higher benefit of $3,000 a month and you apply for survivor benefits at age 60, you will receive benefit of $2,145 or 71.5%. So if you're still working and have not yet reached your full retirement age, the annual earnings limitations for 2025 of $23,400 will apply, meaning your spousal benefit will be reduced. If you remarry before age 60, you can no longer receive a survivor benefit. You may be eligible for spousal benefit from your current spouse. If you remarry after age 60, you are still eligible to receive a survivor benefit.
Since Social Security survivor benefit is considered separate from your own Social Security retirement benefit, you should consider taking one of these two benefits as soon as possible. You have the advantage of letting one of these benefits continue to grow and switch to the higher benefit later. And I have a client who did this. His wife passed and her benefit was greater than his, so he kept his benefit while he continued to work and then flipped over to her benefit in retirement. Lastly, there is no advantage to waiting to collect a survivor benefit past your full retirement age. It never gets larger after that.
Yep. All right, let's moving on. What happens if your financial advisor has been acquired? So what do you do now? Acquisitions have become increasingly common in the wealth management industry, and the pace shows no signs of slowing down as registered investment advisors continue to retire, merge, or be acquired by other firms. Against this backdrop, clients find themselves wondering, what does this mean for my family's financial future? The answer depends on your experience post-acquisition. Choosing the right wealth advisory firm is about aligning your culture, aligning, I guess, their culture and services with your family's priorities. When evaluating whether to stay or move, it helps to establish a clear framework. Over the past decade, we've heard both sides. We've heard both seamless and highly disruptive acquisitions. The difference often comes down to transparency and alignment. Sometimes an acquisition is a non-event. In these cases, your trusted advisor hasn't changed, your service feels consistent, and you're still receiving the same quality of support and guidance. And if you're satisfied, there may be no need to move at all, no need to do anything. So what to do? Stay put and continue monitoring the relationship. Pay attention to potential shifts over time, but don't disrupt what is working well.
Then there's scenario 2, which includes gradual case changes. In other cases, you begin noticing differences. Maybe your wealth advisor gets reassigned, is harder to reach, or is stretched thinner across more clients. You're now part of a larger corporation with more layers.
I have a client that went through this, and because she had less than $250,000 invested with the firm, she was given a 1-800 number for basic requests. They literally sent her a letter and said, sorry, you don't have a financial advisor anymore, but if you need anything, call this number.
And I remember this, and this happened because of the market downturn.
Yes.
And, I mean, she
lost half of her money, so all of a sudden she didn't qualify to have an advisor.
Yeah.
She was mad.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways.
What you need to do in this case is ask direct questions. Who is truly responsible for your account? Has your advisor's compensation changed in ways that affect incentives? If accessibility and personalized service matters to you, it may be time to explore alternatives.
Right? So scenario 3, significant disruption. Sometimes things change significantly and warrant your reconsideration. In these cases, you might see your trusted advisor absorbed into a bigger firm, and the culture may feel different. Instead of a holistic approach, you're pitched new products, add-on services, or investments that don't align with your interests or needs, and maybe they're increasing the fees and charges. The relationship becomes transactional, not personal. What to do? This is often the clearest signal it's time to reevaluate. If your client experience feels bureaucratic or sales-driven, your priorities may not align with the firm.
Yep. So if you're considering a change, define what matters most to you. Of course, not every private equity-backed acquisition is problematic. Some firms have added capabilities, technology, and resources that directly benefit clients. The key is whether those benefits outweigh the trade-offs. If you decide to start exploring a change, choosing the right wealth advisory firm is about aligning culture and services with your family's priority. When evaluating whether to stay or move, it helps to establish a clear framework. Consider the following factors to help you figure out what really matters. And first of all is the investment philosophy. Do you prefer a passive, low-cost approach, an active money manager, perhaps access to private equity, hedge funds, or other alternative strategies? It has to fit with your needs, your philosophies, and your risk tolerances, and your need for involvement in the process. Next is fiduciary commitment and independence. Confirm whether the firm acts as a fiduciary 100% of the time. Some firms operate with hybrid models, a registered investment advisor plus a broker-dealer. That allows for a commission-based sales and proprietary investment products. The SEC holds RIAs or RIAs to continuous fiduciary duty. However, with hybrid firms, fiduciary duty applies only in an advisory role, and when acting as a broker. Hybrids are governed by the Regulation Best Interest, or Reg BI. This dual framework can potentially create client confusion. Independent RIAs are legally required to put clients' interests first, but the culture of true independence can vary.
Another thing to consider is the firm ownership and stability. Who owns the firm today, and what's their long-term vision? Founder or employee-owned firms may be more client-focused, while roll-ups and private equity-backed consolidators often face pressure for growth and near-term exits. A firm's ownership structure can reveal a lot about incentives and what your client experience is going to be like.
Yep. Advisor continuity and succession is the next thing. Firms like ours have a legacy. We are not, Sherry and I are not the first owners of this firm. Steve Rosenberg started this firm 30 years ago and put contingency plans in place in case of his death, disability, or retirement. All of these were rolled into the business continuity and succession plan. And now Sherry and I have the exact same thing in writing, and if any of our clients want to see it, they can. These plans enable firms like ours to continue to grow like-minded principals who will take charge of the firm in case we, the current owners, no longer can. My mom is an example. Her agent for many years retired, and a new guy replaced him, and he's doing a great job. But that person was placed there without any handover prior to his leaving the firm. In that case, it worked out. We have new clients that after their advisor left, they had no personal contact with them at all, and they get letters in the mail, but the interaction is less than they were accustomed to getting. This is something you want to be able to address when you sign up with an advisory firm. Consider down the road, and don't be afraid to ask about this. We are already grooming our replacement, and we have no intentions of retiring, but we want any advisor in our firm to fully understand the compliance and the philosophy the firm is built upon. That way, when our retirement does arrive, it will be seamless transition, not just for us, but for our clients as well.
And it's not like you can guarantee you're going to live a certain amount of years.
That's right.
I mean, we could get hit by a car on I-75
Tonight.
and you'd have to have a plan.
That's right.
So every advisor needs to have a plan. You're just not going to keep living the same way forever. So I see my clients all the time, and I get to know them. I could not imagine just walking out the door and not knowing who would be taking care of them. Will your advisor or the team serving you be with you for the next 5, 10, or 20 years? Ask how the firm ensures continuity for multi-generational families. Does the company have formalized succession plans and equity participation for rising advisors? Number 5, family office services. Do you want a one-stop shop for accounting, bill pay, taxes, insurance, and consolidated reporting? Some RIAs say that they offer this level of integration, but be careful in making sure they actually do all the things they say they do, and that they have people with the expertise to do them well. 6, transparency and fee structure. How does a firm make money? Flat fees, AUM percentage, retainers. Make sure you understand the full cost, including potentially hidden fund expenses. Final thoughts. The acquisition of your financial advisor doesn't automatically spell trouble. Many firms maintain their culture and service model even under new ownership. But if you notice red flags, reduced access to your advisor, product pushing, fee increases, or a more institutional feel, it may be time to re-examine whether your needs are still being met. Ultimately, your wealth advisory relationship should provide clarity, confidence, and continuity. If your priorities no longer align, it may be worth exploring firms that match your values, whether that's independence, scale, or a family office model.
Yeah, when Steve realized he would need to sell the firm, he started inviting Sherry to sit in on all of his client meetings. She already had met many of them, but this was extremely helpful in the transition. Even though you started sitting in on the meetings, he had already integrated you and me into every facet of the business. So kudos to Steve.
Agreed. What also really helped is that I had met most of Steve's clients in the past, and they had also heard me doing the radio show for years, so they had a feel for who I was and what it was about. I can't imagine having a financial advisor that just quits and all of a sudden you're with somebody completely new. This is why Steve encouraged me to get my Series 24 license years ago in the event that something happened to him. Next, when Randy retired from the military and came on board, he got his 24. Now Jonathan took the test today and he passed and has a 24. We need a backup plan to ensure that our clients will be taken care of if something were to happen to one of us.
Corey, you're next.
There you go.
I'm looking forward to
Get
it.
excited.
Now on to a more fun story.
I love this story.
I came across a man.
When you're talking about this, I want everyone, no one's really met you yet, but we're going to put Corey in his Honda Accord and set him free to do the exact same thing this young man did.
I don't know if I'd be able to complete this challenge from my Honda, but he might have gotten a little bit lucky. But one man set out on a mission to find and flip free stuff on Facebook Marketplace and turn it into $1,000 within a week. Connor Gorman just wanted more. This 25-year-old embarked on a quest to feed himself for a week by flipping items on Marketplace, a yard sale for the modern age. Armed with just the clothes on his back, his phone, and his Tesla, he left his wife and baby at home, not knowing when he might next eat or sleep. In the spirit of Kyle McDonald, who is the Canadian blogger who famously turned a single red paperclip into a house in a series of trades, Gorman's goal was just to get by. He aimed to make $1,000 profit. Gorman, who makes a living doing stunts on YouTube, says that it's nearly impossible for people in his age to buy a house nowadays. So he did this just to prove that you can make money starting from nothing.
Yep. I'd like to meet the guy that
I would too.
traded the house into a paperclip. That's
Yeah.
just fun.
I need
all
to
right?
look that one up.
Yep. The first step was to find something on the site on Facebook Marketplace that was listed for free. He spotted a set of old tennis rackets someone was giving away. After an hour of waiting for a response from the owner, he drove 45 minutes to claim them. He says that the hardest part of the challenge is relying on people. And, I get that, Sherry. I drove to
Oh,
South
yeah,
Carolina.
last weekend.
Yeah, drove to South Carolina last weekend, pulling a big trailer and to
buy a saw.
To buy a big old bandsaw. Anyway, I was supposed to meet the guy at 11:30 sharp. That was his time that he set, okay? He showed up 2 hours later eating a cheeseburger, not even an apology. So,
And you had a date.
yes, right. Anyway, some of the items that Connor Gorman purchased and sold were, like I said, the 4 tennis rackets. There was a table he got for free and sold for $25. He got a stroller for free. He couldn't sell that. Probably had too many stains on it. Legos for free and sold them for $40. He got a set of rims for free, sold them for $300. And the thing that I didn't quite understand, it's just maybe I'm too old here, is that he bought and sold lots of Pokemon cards, and he made a lot of money there. And luckily,
But Corey gave us some insight on that this morning.
maybe Corey can tell us some more on that in a second. But luckily, the rackets were on the porch, and unfortunately, no one wanted them, really. He tried selling them on the marketplace and to a racket shop and to players on an actual tennis court. Giving up, he collected a free stroller from another Facebook seller. He used the free towels at a car wash to shine it up and tried selling it to a baby store, but they turned him away, saying the stroller was just too old. Day one was a bust. With no money and an empty stomach, Gorman went to McDonald's and put himself in debt by $7. He found a free parking lot and slept in the back of his car that night.
So day 2 brought a win. Someone was giving away a box of Legos on Marketplace, which Gorman took to a resale shop and negotiated a $40 sale. Hungry, he went to Walmart, and this one makes me sick, and bought a 12-pack of ramen noodles for $4. He says that anything he buys, he uses as an investment, but you can't do that with food, he said. The noodles lasted most of the week. How does a 12-pack of ramen noodles last you a week?
I would feel so polluted.
I'd be so sick. Anyways, so he ate them dry because hot water costs money. And he says, honestly, they fill you up. Then he hit the jackpot. Gorman snapped up a four tire rims worth more than $1,000 that someone was giving away on Marketplace. He listed them for $300. Within an hour, his phone was flooded with messages. He says that he gets a rush when he finds something good. This wasn't Gorman's first entrepreneurial quest. Last year, he filmed a dumpster diving challenge where he made money selling trash for a week, living on packaged muffins and sleeping in a storage locker, and running it out of dumpsters. Can you imagine what he smelled like? I mean, it was horrible. His wife, Hannah, who must be a saint, says that Connor always has the craziest ideas and he does not get bogged down or worry about the little things.
Yeah, like stinking.
Gorman has been making videos with his dad Brian for 15 years. What started out as a hobby has morphed into a very good career. Brian says that he loves seeing Connor being creative, and sometimes I love seeing him struggle and sleep in his car. On day 3, he came across a wooden cabinet listed for $30. The cabinet was nothing special, but he saw some potential. He tried to find some paint supplies on Marketplace, but time was ticking, so he splurged at Home Depot. He borrowed a sander and a drill from his dad, refurbished the cabinet, and listed it for $150. Revamping takes time, and things take a while to sell, so it was a risk. In between sales, Gorman had to handle the practicalities of survival. Charging his car set him back $9. He found a public fountain for drinking. As for bathing, Gorman took a chance at a Planet Fitness, and he got lucky. He says he just walked right in and got a free shower.
But the dirty clothes he had to put back on.
That's right.
Bah.
He halfway made it, okay?
Why did he pack an extra pair of clothes? I don't, whatever.
He was pretending to be homeless in his Tesla.
Bored of the dry noodles, Gorman woke up on the day 4 and decided it was time for a treat. He phoned his dad and convinced him to meet him at IHOP with birthday balloons, a ruse that earned him a free stack of birthday pancakes.
I hate that. I don't like that one.
Yeah, that was kind of smarmy.
So this has been fun so far, but I find that pretty annoying. Why didn't they check his driver's license? To see if it was really his
whoever
birthday.
checks driver's licenses when they say, "Hey, it's my birthday," no one ever does that. It's kind
We
of
should try that
insulting.
next time we go to Texas Roadhouse.
No, it's smarmy. We're not going to do that. Anyway, let's see here. Then Gorman found his next upsell, Pokemon cards, which I mentioned a second ago. He bought a box from a Kroger vending machine for $27 and resold it for $60. That's pretty creative then. He also found a batch of video games on Marketplace for $30, and he sold for $130, bringing his total on day 6 to $500. With just a day left and halfway to his goal, Gorman decided it was time for the Hail Mary. He headed to the casino to try to make up the difference on the different kind of market, the roulette table.
I would have never done this.
He bet it all on black. With his entire week's effort hanging in the balance, the ball landed on black. After the win, a woman reached out expressing interest in the cabinet, and Gorman gave it to her along with half of his winnings. So I give him, credit. He's
Right.
very generous. Hannah, his wife, says that she never doubted that he could do it. Instead, that she was also often more worried about how bad he would stink when he came home at the end of the week. I think that's just a funny
Oh
article.
my gosh, that's funny. Anyways.
Corey, if you ever want to do that, we might just sponsor you, okay?
I think I might have to pass on that one.
I mean, we'll buy you a box of ramen, okay?
Are you owed money? There is literally billions of unclaimed funds possibly waiting for Georgia residents. Georgia is currently holding more than $3 billion in unclaimed property. The initial search requires only a name, city, and a few seconds to find out if you're owed money. Unclaimed property includes things like old savings accounts, utility refunds, uncashed paychecks, or investment dividends. If the rightful owner never receives the money within a set period, the property is required to be reported to the state, where the Georgia Department of Revenue maintains a database where you can search for and claim your property.
Yeah, I did this for my father's estate 2 years after he passed, just to validate all of the old accounts have been properly liquidated, and to maybe find some other accounts that were unidentified before, and just to make sure there's no residual account, funds in the accounts. I found one account with less than $100, and in doing prep for this show, Corey and I reviewed our names, and I looked you up, Sherry, and found out that you had 2 accounts with amounts less than $1 each.
Where?
I can't remember what they were, but
What's the
anyway, we're
point?
down to a minute, so let me just summarize this whole article here, okay? According to the agency, Georgia is currently holding more than $3 billion in unclaimed property on half of lost owners. The initial search requires only, like Corey said, the name and city and a few other very minor pieces of information. to find out what you're owed. But you just need to look down through there and make sure that it is exactly you. Make sure the middle initial is you. Make sure the city that it comes up under, that's you. And to get to this, you just want to go to Georgia Unclaimed Property. Just Google that, or go to
Department of Revenue, DOR.
DOR, Georgia.org. And here's a crazy statistic for you. According to the National Association of State Treasurers, 1 in 7 people nationwide have unclaimed property, and there's no statute of limitations on the claimed unclaimed property. Last year, Georgia returned $114 billion. So,
What?
yeah. So anyway, we're at the end of the show. So thanks everybody for listening. Oh, and by the way, they do have a national site you can go search, and you can find that on that dorgeorgia.org site that I mentioned. So anyway,
missingmoney.com.
Yep. So anyway, have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning and advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for a financial advisor, please contact our office at 478-922-8100 to set up a free consultation. You can learn more about us by visiting our website, retirerelax.com. If you have a question or topic you'd like for us to address in a future broadcast, email Randy at rfmoney.com. We look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.